Hi, it's Lou from colouringqueen.net, and today I am colouring for my Alice in April 2022 colour along. So I've selected a picture by Mrs. Peggotty Arts on Etsy. I'll link to it below the video. And I've printed it out. Well, I actually didn't print it. I took it to Officeworks to get printed on my Xpress blending card, which was only 15 cents. But the blending card you buy by the packet, so it can work out cheaper obviously if you buy a bigger packet, but I usually just buy a little bit. And what I did was I had it printed 2 pictures to 1 page so that it's a bit smaller, more A5 size, and mainly so that I can get it finished in time for my colour along, because as we always know, I'm always running late and behind schedule. But this month I'm running really late and behind schedule because a lot of personal things have come up and loads of doctor's appointments, and sort of that's been every day type thing, and I haven't got done what I wanted to do, and so now of course I'm running out of time. So for the rest of the month I'll be colouring with my Copic markers. And the other reason that I'm really running out of time is because in the morning, well, in about less than 12 hours, we'll be hitting the road and going to Sydney, taking Millie and Buddy with us, and we'll be spending some time down there. But I'm trying to get all my videos done for the month today, so if they sound a bit rushed, it might be because it's, like midnight and we're leaving in a couple of hours when I get them done. And in between that, I've got to nip into the hospital and see the breast surgeon for my appointment there. So lots going on today. We have been so incredibly busy getting the lawn mowed and trying to find the things that we need to take to Sydney and getting all the pets organised. David's taken Buddy now to go and get a bath at the pet shop, and so that he's all nice and clean. It'll be the first time that he meets his Sydney relatives, so that'll be pretty exciting. And thank you to those who wished me a happy birthday. It was the other day, so David had the day off work, so he took me into Brisbane and we went out for breakfast, and then we went out for a walk in the gardens, and that was really nice. And and then of an evening we went out to dinner at this pub at Woody Point. And apparently it has one of the top 10 sunsets of the world, but honestly by the time we got there it was dark, so we didn't see the top sunset in the world, so next time. But we took Buddy with us because it was pet friendly, and they even were selling pet friendly ice cream, so Buddy of course got some of that. And with my recent diabetes diagnosis, I didn't partake in dessert, but I did get some no sugar carrot cake, and I was actually too full to eat it on the night of my birthday, so I ate it yesterday. It was just a small piece, and yeah, that was enough. And it actually tastes like real carrot cake, honestly. I really couldn't tell the difference. It's just a no sugar cake that you could buy from the supermarket in Australia. They've got a whole new range of that, but we're looking up some diabetes recipes so that I can make my own sort of cakes and whatnot and use a substitute, because I've got cravings for like orange and poppy seed or lemon cake or something, but whenever you look at them at the supermarket they've got loads of sugar in them, so I'll just make my own and work out how to do it from the millions of recipe books that I've got. Anyway, that's enough of me. I hope you are all doing very well today. So I'm going to colour up this little Alice picture with my Copics, and I'll probably add some pencil if I've got time, but really running out of time at the moment, so I'm hoping that I'll get all 3 pictures done. Yeah, let's see if I can do it. Get 3 pictures and videos uploaded and go to the hospital and pack and do everything else that's on my list before we leave. So we'll see. But there will be videos while I'm away, so it looks like I'm here, but I'm just doing them all in advance. And for those that ask what happened to my true crime channel, it's still going, but a lot of personal issues have come up and whatnot, and it didn't seem like the right time to continue with it, and we also wanted to rebrand it into something different. So when I come back from Sydney, that'll be up again with all new crimes. I've got heaps of them. I've actually spent something like 6 months a year researching crimes, and I've just got them all packed away there. So I've got plenty of material and research that I've already done way in advance. And yes, that sounds organised. Sounds too organised for me, but actually it's true. So I've got heaps of stuff there and heaps of true crime videos coming, but we just wanted to rebrand it. We thought we weren't really happy with the way it was, so that'll happen when we come back, because it's pointless just to rush it through and get it done before we leave for Sydney. And we're just, not sure if it'll be, a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month when we're in Sydney. So hopefully I'll be able to get all of my videos uploaded today, and I'll still be doing my new releases video, making sure I take my laptop down to Sydney so that I can do the new releases that I do at the end of the month. But I probably won't be able to do the what's on video until after I get back, because I just don't have the equipment in Sydney or the space to be able to do that. But we've got to go, and David's brother's going overseas, so we're going to take care of his mum for a few weeks. So yeah, I just won't have my usual setup. I'll just have a laptop, and hopefully I'll be able to work with that. I hate laptops. I'm one of those people that actually love desktop computers, and I really always feel awkward with a laptop, and especially with this stupid mitten on my left hand still for my tendon, I just find it even more awkward. But anyway, that's enough of me. So I thought we'd talk about Alice in Wonderland today, and I think most of you know that Alice is my very favourite of all the fairy tales. I just love her to bits and pieces. And one of the reasons that I love her so much is the whole Wonderland thing. I mean, how crazy is that? You fall down this rabbit hole and all of these things happen to you, and it just seems so much adventure and so much escapism in Wonderland. You never know what's going to happen. It's not predictable, like Wizard of Oz. I love that, but to me it is kind of predictable where the story goes with it. Whereas Alice in Wonderland, if you've never heard it before, I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? I don't know. I just love Alice. And, I love all the different versions of her that artists come up with, and how they depict her, and some of them are horror, and some of them are, very cutesy, like this image, and some of them are more realistic, like the original images by John Tenniel. So yeah, so much difference there. And I don't know if I ever told you, but when I was young I used to be in quite a lot of plays and whatnot. And of course I was in Alice in Wonderland, and I was Alice, of course, which is pretty funny because I'm a brunette and Alice is usually depicted as a blonde. But anyway, I was still Alice, and at the time I was living with my mother, and she was a very good seamstress, and she actually made my Alice in Wonderland costume. And so it was this beautiful blue dress, and it actually had a hoop under it, so that it all, you know, spilled out and frilled out like a Scarlett O'Hara type thing. And she actually made the little white apron, and I had the headband and everything. And yeah, it was just really, really a lovely costume. And because I can't sew to save myself, well, only a button, it was absolutely beautiful. She was very good at sewing, and so she did a really great job on that. So I'm just using this grey marker here on the picture just to show the white, and yeah, we'll see how that one goes. I hope it works out. But if not, you can actually use the Copic blender, which is not really a blender, it's more of taking colour out, and you can use that to lighten it up. But it always looks darker with the markers when you put it on, and then once it dries it goes pretty light. So I'm hoping that'll look more whitish when I actually finish. Yeah, so I was looking into Alice in Wonderland the other day because she is my favourite fairy tale. And I love the whole story of how she falls asleep in the meadow, and then she goes on this huge adventure. And I was reading that Charles Dodgson, or who most of us know as Lewis Carroll, but that was only his pen name. I was reading how most people seem to think that he was on some sort of drugs or had some sort of mental disorder, because, you know, who comes up with Wonderland and all the weirdo characters that are in it? And especially like the smoking caterpillar, people tend to think that Charles was obviously on drugs for that, but actually most people think that it wasn't drugs that induced this whole Wonderland, but it was actually some sort of migraine issue that he had, and it caused him to be disorientated and also to get hallucinations and to see things as bigger and smaller, like the Drink Me bottles in the story. So it's kind of part of his own life wrapped up in Wonderland and how he perceived the world, which I thought was incredibly interesting because he was such an amazing character. Like, he was just so multi-talented. And so the whole story of Alice in Wonderland started, or had its roots in, a little day trip that Charles Dodgson took with a friend in 1862. They wandered out for a little day trip on the River Thames, and they had 3 little girls with them, Lorena, Alice and Edith Liddell. And while they were rowing along the river and probably having a picnic and dressed up in all those fancy outfits that they used for rowing back in the day, you know, the straw hats and whatnot. And they went for actually 5 miles down the river, and Charles, being a writer as one of the strings in his bows, he decided to conjure up this story in his head to amuse the little girls while they were rowing down the river. And Alice, one of the little girls, she enjoyed the story so much that she wanted more, as most kids do, don't you? You know, when you like something, you want more of it. And that would certainly be me. And so she begged him to write it down for her so that she could read it later and have that story always, you know, with her. And he actually did. He sat down the next day and he wrote it. And then the next month, when they all went out for a rowing trip again down the river, Charles again added to the story of Alice's adventures, which is what the little story was now being called, and he embellished it a bit more and added a little bit more in, and it seems that he'd grown a little bit attached to that story as well, so he ended up turning it into a book. But it wasn't enough that it was a really cracking tale or a really lovely adventure. He actually wanted to research all the animals in the book, and he also wanted to make sure that his target audience, the children, liked it. So he basically wanted it peer reviewed by a bunch of little kiddies. So that was quite novel at the time, and especially the amount of research that he put into the animals that feature throughout Alice in Wonderland. And as I said, he's multi-talented, so he actually tried his hand at doing illustrations to accompany the story that he was telling, and that was actually in the first version of the book that he hand wrote. They are his own original illustrations, but he ended up realizing that he needed a pro for it, and he actually ended up, at the time that the book was published, he decided to hand that over to John Tenniel. So anyone that's got like an Alice in Wonderland colouring book with the old fashioned images on it, they're usually the ones that were in the first publication by John Tenniel. And of course, the little girl Alice Liddell, who had basically inspired this whole beautiful book, was given that handwritten copy of the book, and it had Charles's own illustrations in it, and he dedicated it to her. So he gave it to her for Christmas, and it said, "A Christmas gift to a dear child in memory of a summer's day." I mean, how nice is that? Now, at the time, that probably would have been just like a really thoughtful gift and something extremely lovely and from the heart from a family friend. But can you imagine how much that would be worth today? Like, it must be worth a mega amount. But it wasn't only Alice Liddell that inspired Charles. Years later, he would come across another Alice, which was Alice Rakes. And when he talked to her about what it looks like when you look at yourself in a mirror and how the mirror reverses the images, she told him that she thought there might be something on the other side of that mirror, on the other side of the looking glass. So I think you know where this is going. So of course, inspired by what this little Alice had said to him, he took to the pen and paper again and wrote Through the Looking Glass, and it only took 6 months to knock that one out, so pretty quick really, considering he had other things to do. He had many jobs and talents, and so people often refer to Through the Looking Glass as a darker version of Alice. Mainly they blame that because Charles also suffered from depression, and it seemed to be a bit darker in light of or compared directly to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, but still both beautiful books. And so over the years, Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, everyone has fallen in love with this little girl and the meadow and all the people that she meets along the way. And it's been made into plays and musicals and silent films and movies. But there's probably 2 standout movies for Alice in Wonderland. And the one that I love the most, of course, is the Disney one that was created in 1951. And Walt Disney, actually, he was a huge fan of Alice's, and he'd read the books when he was a child, so Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland. And later on he thought, why not buy the film rights? And he wanted to make it into a movie. And he had a sort of vision for it, but World War II was going on at this time, and everything changed during World War II. You really couldn't be making those sorts of movies, and he wanted it to be animated, and everything, took a back seat to the war. And it wouldn't be until actually 1951 when his dream of turning this book into a movie would actually happen. And he tossed and turned with ideas for how he thought it should be portrayed. And he tried for like a realistic view, and he tried like part animated, part real life. But in the end he decided that the type of story it should be animated. And of course, he expected it to be popular, but it wasn't. Alice in Wonderland was not popular when it was first released, which I didn't know until I was looking it up the other day, because I'm curious cat, like a curious Cheshire cat, and I thought it would have been popular straight out the gate, but it actually wasn't. It really didn't take off until the 1970s. And so most people know like Alice from the 1970s, where she's wearing that lovely blue dress, but actually in some of the earlier illustrations when it was published, she actually had a yellow dress on. But I can see that the yellow wouldn't look that good in animation, like without much contrast. Like, it's sort of the gold and whatnot sort of suits with Snow White in contrast with the navy blue, but if Alice's dress was yellow in the animation version, I don't think it'd look as good. I think the blue really suits Alice. But anyway, it didn't get popular until the 1970s, so kind of just shows that, you know, sometimes you have this great idea and it takes a little while for the rest of the world to discover how great your idea is. I mean, not everything is an overnight success, I guess. And I guess most artists realise that, because often they never achieve fame during their lifetime, and it's only after they die that their works become super popular. But there was also the other version. I mean, there's many versions, but the other standout version I think is the Tim Burton version of Alice in Wonderland, and that came out in 2010, and basically they retold the story and made it a lot more emotional, and that became a huge success right out of the gate. But by then everyone had been educated on who Alice in Wonderland was and the backstory, so I guess it was more likely to be successful if it was a good production and people got into it. I know here in Brisbane in a couple of months' time they're actually having a Alice in Wonderland interactive game, and they sort of turn the city of Brisbane, you buy tickets to it through some little app thing, and you get clues and you go around and they sort of make up the city of Brisbane like this Wonderland. They do it every year, I think probably because of the, you know, the beer virus, that they didn't do it last year maybe, but actually I think they did do it. And people get dressed up in the costumes and it's just crazy. I've seen some people have these really great Alice in Wonderland inspired weddings too, like where they get dressed up as like the Mad Hatter's tea party, and it looks absolutely fabulous, but I know David wouldn't be into it, you know. He's not really an Alice in Wonderland fan. I think he'd watch it like for my sake, but I think he'd be asleep in 5 minutes, to be honest. But it's just crazy, like the whole Alice in Wonderland thing, like that they do interactive games out of it. People theme their weddings on it. You often see like little tea parties and cakes with an Alice in Wonderland theme. It just seems to have something magical about it, or maybe it's just me and I sort of always look for the magic in Alice, but I don't know, I'd be interested to hear what you think. And I was really surprised to see how often, you know, Alice in Wonderland is quoted. Like, not the quotes that you see on memes and things, like, you know, we're all mad here, and you might see it on t-shirts and whatnot, but actually how many times it's quoted in law cases and law reports. It seems that there's always a line, it's like Shakespeare really, it gets quoted so often that, you know, in so many cases, I think there's over 1,200 law cases where quotes from Alice in Wonderland have been used in the summing up or the judgment of the cases. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and that even judges get on board with comparing certain cases they hear with some of the weirdness of Alice in Wonderland. And I heard some strange theory the other day. I didn't have time to look into it further, but there was even a theory, or I don't know how true this one is, that Lewis Carroll or Charles Dodgson was actually considered to be a suspect for the Jack the Ripper murders. So I think that's a bit crazy, and maybe it was a joke. I didn't have time to look into that one any further, but he was just an amazing man. As well as being a writer, he was a mathematician, and I mean, he even had a crack at doing the drawings for Alice in Wonderland, and he really just had this amazing life, all while battling some sort of medical problem that caused him to experience things in a different way. Well, that's the theory on it. I really didn't look too far into it. I was just pretty surprised at the things that I didn't know about Alice in Wonderland, even though I've absolutely adored that character for most of my life. But I love the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, and I've actually got a stuffed toy of it. When I was about 21, I nipped over to the US to go to Disneyland, as you do, you know, if you're going to have a 21st, may as well go to Disneyland. Actually, I had my 21st in Australia on one of the yachts around the harbour, but afterwards I went to America and Canada and a few other places. I can't remember now. I have to look at my passport. Hong Kong, Singapore, yeah, a few other places, and of course Disneyland was where I wanted to go, because I grew up with watching the World of Disney on a Sunday night, 6:30, it would come on TV, and everyone would just sit in front of it and watch whatever they had to offer. So it would be like Cinderella or Alice in Wonderland, and all I ever wanted to do was go to Disneyland and go on that teacup ride that they always had at the beginning of World of Disney. And of course, that's what I did. So when I was 21, I went to Disneyland. I bought the Cheshire Cat stuffed toy, which I've still got. I've never played with it because it's just too cute. I've got some Alice in Wonderland teapots and cups. And of course, I went on that teacup ride at Disneyland, and it was so much fun, and I wish I'd bought more stuff, but I also collect Betty Boop, so while I was in the US I'd also bought a pot of Betty Boop stuff, because there was no internet back then when I was 21, so you couldn't order online. You had to wait for a friend to go to the US, or you had to write to people, or find a mail order catalogue or something to get it. But when I go back to Sydney and we go through one of these storage containers, I think I'm probably going to find my Cheshire Cat and bring him home, and he can sit there and Millie can sit beside him. Oh, that's a funny thing I've got to tell you. David gave me this birthday card for my birthday, and I swear to God, the cat on the card just looks exactly like Millie. And it's wearing a little tiara, and it's got a little ankle bracelet with diamonds on it, and a little necklace with a purple stone. So I said to David, we've got to get Millie this outfit. She'd look exactly like this cat. And so I'm going to cruise the Etsy stores and see if I can get her a little necklace with a little blue stone on it to match her icy cold blue eyes, and also see if I can get her a little cat tiara, and I think she'd just look absolutely gorgeous before she rips it all off and claws at me for putting it on. So Buddy and Millie, of course, are coming to Sydney with us, so that's going to be fun. A nice little road trip there, but anyway, we'll see what happens. Anyway, I would love to know who your favourite character is from Alice in Wonderland, and I'd even like to know if you're not smitten with Alice in Wonderland, because we don't all have to like the same things. You know, obviously we all like different things, but Alice has just always been a favourite for me. I just adore her. Anyway, until next time, stay safe and happy colouring.